Be ready. 10 seconds to go. Start relying on the decision of this court in Indra Sahone case. The Learned Council has poured that economic criteria cannot be the sole basis to provide reservation. He would further submit that a class should be homogeneous, have a common origin, and have the numerical strength. The EWS created by the amendment in question does not fulfill any of the criteria and hence cannot be called a class for any state action, particularly the affirmative action. He further emphasized on this argument by intensively reading the opinion of Justice Sahai in Indra Sahone case. The Learned Council has further submitted that the amendment in question fails on all the basics of equality code because if poverty is the rationale behind it and it aims at providing jobs for the poor by way of reservation, then the amendment fails to address as to how the poverty of the forward class is different from that of the SCs, STs, and OBCs. Hence, the amendment in question fails the twin test of rationality and nexus and violates the basic structure of constitution. Learned Senior Council has submitted that in India, reservation formed a special part of affirmative action. It is within the larger affirmative action circle that reservation finds its place. Drawing analogy with countries like USA, Israel, and Germany, the Learned Council has submitted that indeed affirmative action can be an answer, but it is not the only answer. There are therefore many ways of addressing the issue of economic disadvantage other than reservation as has been done by these countries. He would further submit that the limit for such reservation cannot exceed 50% except in cases where compelling reasons arise. Arguing on the Equality Code, Learned Council has relied on the classification laid down by this court that the present amendment neither has any reasonable classification nor such classification has any nexus with the object to be achieved, hence is violative of Article 14. Entire list of reserved categories of citizens is caste based and the amendment did not include any metric or indicator, ignoring the marginalization criteria entirely while granting reservation. He has also quoted the works of John Searle to submit that each person has the same indefeasible right over every claim. one law for lion and ox is oppression, the learned senior counsel, quoting William Blake, has contested the amendment. First, granting reservation to upper caste is violation of the basic structure of constitution, as the basis of reservation must be rooted in identified past discrimination which impeded access to public administration and education opportunities. Relying on the decision of this court in Indira Sahone case and judgment of the Gujarat High Court in Dayaram K. Verma, wherein similar reservations on the basis of economic criteria were quashed by this court and the High Court respectively, he has submitted that economic criteria cannot be the sole basis for providing reservation and the reservation cannot exceed 50% limit. Second, he submitted that reservation in the favor of forward class violates the basic structure of the constitution and is therefore unconstitutional. Third, classification of EWS is neither reasonable nor valid. The reason for providing reservation to SC, ST, and OBC communities was historical and perpetual discrimination and stigmatization. It was the structural barrier that kept them from the mainstream. Reservation cannot be used as a poverty alleviation scheme. Hence, such classification violates the Equality Code under Article 14. Fourth, the amendment in question fails the width test laid down by this court in M. Nagaraj, as there are no limitations or indicators that have been devised to identify the people falling under the EWS, whereas for each category, be it SC, ST, or OBC, the Constitution is overseeing the reservation by virtue of Article 366. Hence, the amendment in question fails the guided power test. Learned senior counsel, while placing reliance on Constituent Assembly debates and decision of this court in Keshav Nanda Bharati case, has argued that the 103rd Amendment violates the basic structure of the Constitution as it changes the identity of the Constitution. He would again submit that providing reservation solely on economic criteria is against the decision of this court in Indra Sahone case and also against the facet of democracy, as democracy ought to be representative. The learned counsel would argue that economic criteria is transient in nature, whereas the inclusion of backward classes under Article 16 bracket 4 was on the ground of historical exclusion. In our society, discrimination finds its root in caste, religion, race, etc., and not in economic condition of a person. The classification under Article 14 has to have reasonable nexus and intelligible differentia, which the amendment in question, because of all the aforesaid reasons, fails to achieve. He has also submitted that indeed forward class must have faced some discrimination, but the intensity of discrimination is not enough to justify reservation. To support his submission, he has relied on the judgment of this court in Madhav Rao Sindhya case. Stop.